Stories-Girls of Reddit. What are some hints you gave to a crush which flew right over their head? The more obvious, the better. Story 1. Hey, computer store guy. The best response to hey, let me have your number so we can study in my place sometime is not to roll your eyes and say, oh yeah, because you're so much smarter than me. I don't need help. I'm fine. Though watching your coworker silently loses in the background was reward enough for that interaction. Story 2. I sat on his lap, and I put his arms around my waist, rested my head on his shoulder, and held onto his hands. He still had no idea. I liked him. Edit for those who are confused picture. Story 3. Dang it. Story time from my perspective. Hindsight is 2020. I work with this girl, okay? She comes over to my house a lot, spends time watching TV, joking around, snacking, I think just having fun together as friends because one, I have never been in a relationship before. About 21 at the time, too. I was raised in a super conservative Christian home. Anyways, one day her best friend is hanging out with me and asking tons of questions about how I feel about Kay. You two are spending a lot of time together. Are you going to ask her out? Of course, I respond with how we're just friends. She shouldn't worry about it, blah, blah. I'm so bad at hints, it's painful. Fast forward a week or so. Kay is over at my house super late and decides she isn't going home. She will just sleep at my place. I insisted on sleeping on the couch. She was having none of it. I find a compromise and sleep in pajamas for the first time in 10 years and sleep under the blanket, but not the sheet. So we are not actually touching. She gets super cuddly, and I roll over and go to sleep. TLDR girl tries to sleep with me. I assume too lazy to drive home. Story 4. An incredible blind guy. Met her in the bar. Lots of dancing together, drinks, her hand sitting on my thigh. Almost all the time as we sat, she asked me to walk her home, saying no one is home and she feels unsafe. I agree. In front of her home, we stand at the moment. She takes initiative and kisses me. I literally jump up because I was looking just past her face at this new Audi driving up the hill, kind of half zoned out. I feel so sorry for her still. Story 5. I attempted to low-key ask him to prom. Had to be cool about it, nice and smooth. My phrasing was something along the lines of, maybe you and I should go to prom together. It'd be more fun than going alone. His response was just, yeah, maybe, before he walked away. I took this as a rejection and immediately ceased all my other genius attempts at flirting, such as hugging, touching his hair, letting him carry my bag to the bus. He just kind of did it. I never made him, and it became a daily routine for us, smiling at him and other such things. I thought I was so subtle, but almost everyone knew. I found out years later that he honestly had been clueless, and the reason he had grown kind of distant with me is he thought I didn't like him back. Story 6. It's easy to dismiss these as he was clueless. But there is one alternative explanation. He just does not believe you could possibly like him, and that is some kind of mean practical joke that you and your friend will laugh about later. He actually thought I was serious depression. Edit, yes, I should have said at least one alternative, but I think the assumption here is that the guy is in fact interested, but he is missing the signals and has reasons why he's not taking the initiative. Story 7. I have a feeling that if she were a Redditor, a friend of mine would be on here talking about me right now. I've known her for about 4 years now. I have always had a crush on her, but when I brought it up a few years back, she gave me a lukewarm response. I never mentioned it again. Then last night, she got to talking about reaching that age where you want something comfortable to settle into, and she kept throwing hints about me. As much as I adore this girl and have wanted to date her for a long time, I didn't like the way she worded everything. It wasn't like there's someone I like and I don't know how to tell her. It was more like I want a relationship, but I don't want to date strangers. I guess that's why I spend time with you. You're comfortable. I like how comfortable we are together, but I also need passion. So I joke my way out of the awkwardness. I'm sure she thinks I didn't catch her hints. I did. I just want her to be interested in me because I'm special to her and she appreciates me, not just because I'm good enough and she doesn't feel like trying harder, Story 8. Not a girl blew it back in high school. I was very close to this girl who was in my friend group. Me and her did everything together, like go to the movies without the others in the group, go on lunch dates, shed sleepover. We were basically a couple. I say basically because we did all this, but I wasn't dating her or ever tried because I really thought she wasn't into me. But I mean, this girl literally would tell me things like I would be happy if you were my first time. And she actually got naked in front of me one day. I was just an extremely dense kid who assumed she was like this with all guys. On a happier note, I did end up dating her once I got to college, and we're still together now. Story 9. I said I want you. He said thanks. Another time I texted a guy. I wanted to sit on his face, and 20 minutes later I was doing just that. Win some, lose some. Story 10. I'm the guy whose head it went over. After my first real date, ever though at the time, I wasn't sure if it was a date when I was 19 at the movies. I took her home. I offered to walk her to her door like a sir. When we're up there, she tells me I didn't have to do that, and I reply with something like, well, sometimes I like to pull out the old school traditional moves. She turns away from the key in her door, takes a slight step towards me, and says, well, do you know any more of those traditional moves? I bow, tip my hat, and say some corny like I had a lovely time tonight. Madam, I didn't realize what ID missed until I was halfway home, and I scared the people beside me at the light because I was screaming at the top of my lungs and pounding the dashboard. Telling that story still makes me mad at myself all these years later. Story 11. While we were both really drunk, she sat on my lap and said I could never be with a guy like you. You're too nice. She was feeling my face and everything. I was confused. I had and was sad at the same time. Story 12. Summarization of this: us guys are not stupid. We're just scared of being hurt and tricked into embarrassment. Edit Holy Cow Gold. Thank you, kind sir. Story 13. I was part of an investigation into infidelity I can't really go into detail about. But the gist is that Jane Doe was cheating on her husband in the military with some other guy, Steve, on base. Or she was trying to suffice to say, the guy wasn't too bright. I mean, I met the guy, and he wasn't all there. Some say he knew and was trying to dissuade her, knowing she was married. But due to some other stuff I can't divulge, he probably didn't have a clue. Sweet guy. Good man, but dumb. Jane was really just trying to take advantage of his stupidity, his muscle, and getting nowhere. Reading the details and text messages and so on was hilarious. Paraphrased, I want to run barefoot through the fields with you. I grew up in Oklahoma. Those fields of cow pies, gross L. I can see my reflection in your eyes. It's the glasses. Run away with me. Take me into your arms. I have guard duty. My CO would have my. I want that. No, my CO is always telling me my is his. Haha. Have you ever wondered what true love is? Ever want to experience romance and deep desire, longing and winds of destiny? No, I am so lonely. I want movies when I'm lonely. They got a theater on base. Think it's showing Titanic and Goonies. I want to be your rose to your Jack. My name is Steve. What do you think when you look up at the stars? I'm outside. I want you so bad. I know how that is. I want a good burger, but the ones they have here on Base the Grill is only open until 2000, and it's like 2300. OMG, I want a burger so bad. What are you doing? Texting on duty. What are you doing now? Texting on the pot. What are you doing after duty? My CO caught me texting. Oh, Steve. Story 14. A friend told me she had a crush on a girl, but didn't know if she was straight and couldn't figure out how to raise the subject. I gave her some mostly joking suggestions. I was the girl, went so far over my head that I actually got jealous of the mystery girl. She's my girlfriend now and is still laughing about the fact that I was jealous of myself. Story 15. I kissed my now boyfriend a year before we started dating. He thought I slipped. He didn't know I liked him until I showed up at his basic training graduation. Story 16. Back when we had just met, my husband missed many of my extremely obvious and unsubtle hints. I would say things like, you should stay here and sleep with me tonight. And he would say, oh no, I'm not tired yet. I'll go home so you can sleep. Turned out he was just super conscious of me being 17 instead of 18. He was early 20s. Once I turned 18, he suddenly became aware of all my not very subtle advances. Story 17. Band trip to Universal. I had purposefully chosen his group to walk around with and stayed mostly hanging out with just him. Always tried to sit next to him on rides that required the group to split. Second day of the trip, we went to the second park. We all got butterbeer and I didn't get a straw, so it was all over my top lip. He says, if you were any other girl, I would be all smooth and be like, here, let me help you with that and kiss you, but I don't think you're like that. I blush and say, well, how do you know I'm not like that? No response. I sat next to him on the bus ride to and from Universal. Even took home the stuffed dinosaur he won, and I'm pretty sure I bought him and his friend cheesecake, all while he was pining over another girl. Apparently our friends were making bets on how long it would take us to get together. Took him a few weeks, but that's my boyfriend. Everyone, he knows my Reddit too, so hi, sweetheart. Story 18. I guess it was a little bit past crush at this point, but we were on a date and he asked me to be his girlfriend. I said, well, I don't even know what it's like to kiss you yet. He goes, oh, okay. I was like, that was your cue, and kissed him. It was kind of cute. Story 19. We would always hang out after classes on our own, and I'd rest my head against his chest or lap, depending on whatever was comfiest. When we'd watch movies, I'd play with his hair a lot. I even kissed him on the cheek once. He had no idea. Story 20. I asked a guy if he'd bring some Xbox original games for us to play. In short, it was code for this. He brought over a big bag of games, and we played them. I remember one was Time Splitters, which I frickin' loved and wish I still had means to play. I didn't tell him my original plan until a couple of years after what started going out. He was just so frickin' cute, all super stoked that I wanted a game with him. I remember he came over a little later than planned because he had been carefully selecting which games to bring. I married that goober. Story 21. Having read this thread, I think a dear friend might be into me. Edit him. Actually, a girl, gorgeous Russian blonde, sat next to me in study hall for a year in high school. Every day we would push our desks together and playfully kick each other under the desk, hide each other's stuff, and do homework together. After I moved states, she berated me for how oblivious I was. In my defense, I was a lanky nerd with low self-esteem. Story 22. I knew he liked me. I got in prime kissing position, as in my lips way too close to his to be mistaken for anything else, and he still did nothing. So I kissed him, he barely kissed me back, and when I pulled away and smiled at him, he said I'm confused and genuinely looked like he did not believe that what just happened was real. We've been together 7 years now, 3 of which we've been married. He still has moments weekly where I see that same cute disbelieving expression on his face, and he'll hug me and say, "Are you sure this is real? It's too good to be true." Story 23 addendum to this: some of us are very good at rationalizing away hints we've noticed. For example, I've literally been making out with a girl who has told me she only is physical when there is meaning, then a day later convinced myself it didn't mean she liked me. Story 24: we met at a Reddit meetup. Talking on Facebook, I mentioned a new bar near where I worked. He said had never heard of it. I said they had really good Marys. He said he didn't like mixed drinks. Then I read a Reddit thread about guys. When have you realized too late she was flirting with you and realized he has no clue I wanted to go out for drinks, so I messaged him again and was more blunt about it. We are now married and expecting our second boy any day now. Allow me to cut in and give some examples as to why men don't pick up on signs. I had one female friend I liked a lot. We AAT together in class every day, talked every day, and made a lot of physical contact. She would scratch my back, ask me to massage her feet, etc. A lot of flirting went on. I asked her out on a date, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't like you like that." Another girl gets flirty with me often. We've made out. She said I had a dream about us last night, which sparked a conversation that ended with her admitting she wanted to have with me. She even talks about marrying me. Oh, but she's seeing someone. Wait, what? Story 25. I was pursuing him hard. He was making me dinner at his house, and we were chatting. He makes a joke about the hoops head have to jump through to get a classy woman like me to sleep with him. I respond with, "It wouldn't take all of that for you to get me in your bed," as I flirtatiously grin at him and roll my eyes towards his bedroom. He laughs and responds with, "So what do you like on your salad?" Thankfully, I didn't give up on that dork, and now we are happily living together in the mountains. Story 26. I always refer to him, and only him, with an endearing honorific. I asked to go hang out for a day in a different city. Just the two of us. I insisted that I walk with him to the grocery store while all our other friends waited at home, even though my feet were killing me at the time, and everyone knew that. I always sat with my body facing him during social events. These aren't too obvious as isolated incidents, but all the little things accumulating over time should have told an idiot that I liked him. And yet he seemed to not have any idea. My girlfriends were definitely catching on. For what it's worth, I'm almost certain he liked me too, but he had little self-confidence. I considered confessing to him, but probably like him, I didn't want to risk everything being a huge misunderstanding and damaging our friendship. But now we're an ocean away, so I guess that's that. Story 27 guy here. Sometimes I'm simply not interested. I try to act dumb or clueless because it feels bad to reject somebody. I deal with rejection myself. I know how much it sucks, and I don't want to hurt nobody. The thing is, the more I try to distance myself, the more they insist. Girls don't take a hint. Story 28. This was one that happened to me. I'm a girl, but I might as well share it anyway. There was this guy in my class in elementary school, and he told me he had a crush on a girl in our class. And if I could guess who, he would tell me. I guessed every girl in my class, and he said no to them all. So I eventually just assumed he was messing with me and gave up. It took me 10 years to realize that I'd forgotten to guess myself. Story 29. When I was in high school, I would try to hold the guy I liked hand, put myself under his arm, and have him pretend to be my boyfriend. When other guys that were crushing on me came near, I would jump on him when I hugged him. I would lean on him and touch him as much as I could. For years, the thought he was friend-zoned. For years, I thought he friend-zoned me. Story 30. We hung out often. This last birthday of his was a hot day in July. I texted him, 95 of females who know better will be down for skinny dipping tonight. He responded, that activity sounds like it's lacking in morals. I mean, it makes sense I have few morals. Story 31. Actual conversation between me and now ex. Boyfriend me. I bought some new leopard print panties. I can't wait for you to see them. I bought printer ink today. Story 32. Touch is definitely a big one. If a girl finds a reason to put her hands on you, she's most likely into you, even if it's just a gentle touch on your arm while she's talking or laughing. Story 33. I'm a guy, and I have a story that's not quite what Opie asked. There was this girl who liked me, and I was very aware of it. She kept showing up to events I was going to be at. She flirted with me constantly, sat right next to me at every chance. I liked her too, but hey, race the thing, I'm pretty. Like, I'm just not boyfriend material, and I knew that's what she wanted. So I had a frank discussion with her about this, and she convinced me to date her anyway. We were together for 2 years, during which she slowly realized how I was, and I slowly fell ridiculously in love with her. So she dumped me, and man, it hurt. Ladies, if a guy straight up tells you he's, leave off. Fellas, if you know you're, don't let a girl convince you you're wrong. This isn't the movies. The guy doesn't suddenly find the will to make his life better because of the girl. The girl doesn't have the ability to fix him. In the end, all that you get is heartbreak. get her together first. Else, don't get involved with someone who thinks you will. Story 34, I said I really care about you. He said, cool. He didn't get it. I said, no, I really care about you, like more than I care about most other people. He said, oh, yeah, I like you too. We are now happily married. I find myself wondering when he'll figure that out too. Story 35, I used to sneak out and throw rocks at his window at night to get him to come out and talk to me. Also used to organize friend nights for the sole purpose of seeing him. Was a complete shock to him, apparently, when my friend drunkenly told him he was so blind to my crush on him. LOL boys, edit we've now been dating for 6 years. Story 36, my fiancé had no idea I was hitting on him before we started dating. After spending a day together with our college club, we returned to the campus. I asked him if he was free anytime the next week to hang out. He just said, nope, I'm really busy, which he maintains to this day was true. Then a few weeks later, I tried to get him to hang out again and pretended to send a mass text to see who was in town for spring break. It was my night off, so I hoped he would respond. The next day, he texted me here, and that was it. I was convinced he didn't like me, but several of my friends told me to just ask him out. When I finally worked up the courage, I was so nervous that I was not my usual happy, goofy self. I told him I needed to talk to him, and he thought he had pissed me off. He had no idea I was interested until I asked him out, and he was really happy when I did. We've been together for almost 5 years, 3. Story 37, not a crush, but my boyfriend I was ready to have for the first time, and I was rubbing his erection with New York hand. Thought I was being obvious. He laughed and pulled my hand away. I was so embarrassed I didn't try again for months. He then broke up with me because I wouldn't have with him. Story 38, this is from the other side of it. A girl had asked me to come help her study. Mind you, we were in 2 different majors. She kept asking me for a week, and I finally said I'd come over at such and such time. While I get to her place, she's in a sports bra and spandex shorts in the living room. Her excuse was that she was exercising by doing P90, not a hint of sweat. I think nothing of it. She shows me around the house and eventually leads me up to her bedroom and told me numerous times her roommates were not home. I still don't get what she's going for. I ask if we're going to study, and she proceeds to show me stuff in her room and asks if I was good at anatomy. Then her roommates show up. It all went over my head until one night at the bar, in her inebriated state, angrily yelled that she liked me and that I was an idiot for not noticing. Story 39, we were at this boring meeting and took my phone and saves her number. She obviously doesn't have mine, but she's expecting ID call her, which I didn't. The next time we meet, she takes my phone, goes on my Facebook app, and adds herself. She then messages me on Facebook every day, but I didn't have a clue that she likes me. One day, she just lets it out, I really like you. I told her, ha, you're funny, you know. So woo too. She has never responded to this day. Story 40, a guy I liked asked me why I didn't date. I explained that because of bullying in my teens, I wasn't interested and didn't really trust people's advances. But if the right guy asked, I would say yes, and that if I was brave enough, I would ask them out. He said that if he asked me out, he wouldn't be making fun of me, and that if I asked him out, he would say yes. I was trying to gather my courage up to ask him out when I found out he was sleeping with a married girl. Story 41, a guy. I was 23-ish at the time. I think I was super into this girl. We were best friends, both virgins. She was super into me, but my clueless had no idea. One night, we were sitting in a parking lot in my car talking about, which we did surprisingly often. She asked me a hypothetical. What would you do if? And then she proceeded to describe our surroundings and the situation almost exactly. And she said she wanted you right there. I answered the question and then continued the conversation like it was all good. Story 42, a lot of those answers seem like the guys just weren't interested. If someone does not react to your super obvious hints, chances are he doesn't like you. And not trying to be mean, I'm just surprised that many girls seem to think their crush would definitely hit on them, if they only knew. But even the prettiest girl I know has been turned down multiple times. It happens, and it's okay. Story 43, oh God, my husband was so clueless. Texted him all the time, told him I liked him. Apparently he thought it was in a hey, you're cool way. Asked him to movie with me. This was the most awkward date that wasn't a date ever. Told him that he needed kissed. He was just like, okay. Invited myself over to his house to play some video games, even though beyond Mario Kart ID, never showed an interest in games before. Once I was over there for a while, we finally got together. I play games now. Story 44, ITT guys are terrified to assume a girl likes them. Because if they're wrong, they will be viewed as creepy. Better to assume friend zone than to make a move and be shot down. Story 45, I asked my now boyfriend out for drinks twice, and each time he responded with, yeah, we should do that, and then walked away. Finally, he asked me out, and when I said yes, he started to walk away without getting my phone number. Story 46, I asked this guy out to prom, and he agreed to go with me. We knew each other from school, even though he was a year older than me, and we had even been out to a comedy show before together. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and I message him over Facebook to let him know what color my dress is in case he wants a match, and he replies with, "Oh, I thought you were joking. I'm going with so and so." And that's how I ended up dateless for prom. Story 47, I asked him to dinner. He mumbled something, left as fast as he could, and now we pretend to be friendly even though I can't stand to be around him and his girlfriend of the month each time. Story 48, we were 16 years old and playing hide and seek with a bunch of friends in an old abandoned warehouse. I actively sought him out as my hiding partner, and he reluctantly went into a small, cozy closet with me. He thought we could find a better hiding spot. I finally convinced him to go inside with me, and we were near pressed up against one another. I told him we could do just about anything in here, and no one would know. And he said yeah, but would make noise and they'd find us sigh. Later on that night, I found out that the rest of our group had all basically used the game as a pretense to hook up with various people. Meanwhile, my crush was in full-on hiding mode. Story 49, we were at a party and had gone outside to wait for my dad to pick me up. I took his hands and tried kissing him. To this day, my boyfriend claims that he thought I was drunk and that I didn't know what I was doing. Spoiler alert, I was not. That was almost 4 years ago. It took him 8 months of flirting after that before he got the hint. Story 50, I'm not sure if this is quite what you're asking for, as I'm pretty sure he knew I was into him, but didn't know what I was getting at. I was trying to get my now husband. We had kind of been back and forth flirting for a couple of weeks, and I was getting impatient and a little drunk, and I figured, hey, who doesn't want to? So I started kissing his neck, and I worked my down and got about to his lower stomach. When he stops me and starts going on about how he's not ready for a relationship just yet. To this day, he swears he had no idea what I was up to, thought I just wanted to make out. And had he realized, there was no way he would have stopped me. Especially considering he hadn't had in 9 months at that point. Obvious spoiler is we got together shortly thereafter and are now married for 2 years. Threads like this are so depressing because I realize I'm not just obliviously missing signals women are giving me. They're just not hitting on me. Story 51, we were texting back and forth one night. He jokingly said, "You know you love me," to which I replied, "What if I do?" Followed by 10 minutes of awkward silence. I knew he didn't know what to say because he was replying within seconds. Then he hits me with knowing me I wouldn't do anything about it. It's been almost 7 years, and he still cringes every time I bring it up. Story 52, a girl once told me that she could be topless right now, and if her mom walked in, she wouldn't care, and I laughed at her because I was convinced she was joking. Then the next day, we were eating lunch together, and she asked me what kind of girls that I liked, because she wanted to be that kind of girl. Still under the impression that she was joking, it only dawned on me that she actually had a crush on me when after she moved across the country, her best friend said I was one of the only guys she ever talked about. Story 53, I'm a guy, but I'll tell you one mine said to me that I did not get until someone pointed it out. I started working in a supermarket and met a girl. We started chatting, and I casually mentioned the date that I started, and she said that was her birthday. I made a joke that me coming into her life was her birthday present. She laughed, and then said she should just celebrate that every year, whoosh. Story 54, not the girl. But one time I went to a girl's house with some of my friends. Her house was incredibly big. So when time of sleep came, she started assigning beds to my friends. On my turn, she said something I couldn't understand. Probably because of alcohol in my system, or just because of plain stupidity, I just shrugged it off and went to sleep on a couch. The next morning, my friends were super excited and happy for me. They asked me how everything with her went, and I was so confused. Apparently, that part one didn't hear was, and you can sleep in my bed. It's been at least 6 years, but I still regret that. Story 55, my buddy at college was chatting up some girl, and they've been friends for a while. It was kind of obvious, so she wrote down her Reddit username, finally had been trying to get it for weeks. He said it was just kind of game to see if I could get it. I feel like this is a cheap victory and just leaves the paper on the table. I grabbed it when we left to not leave anything behind. Later that night, curiosity got to me, and I looked. Gone Wild. Gone Wild happened. I never looked. I only saw the post honestly and told him the next day. And to go forward, they're still together, and she doesn't know I intercepted and then played tour guide for the incompetent. Story 56. This is a story about a guy who notoriously missed cues that girls liked him, but this time it was me who missed the signs. My first year in college, I met a guy in my dorm whose high school girlfriend followed him up. They broke up a few months into the semester, and I was the girl he was interested in once single, and probably before he was single. So the story goes we hung out, got pretty close, but one night during finals week she burst into his room and saw us on the couch snuggling and watching TV. She flipped out and ran back to her room. He went to deal with the situation, and his roommate told me I should leave. So I headed to my room. Other friends grabbed me and put me in their closet. Turns out that they overheard ex-girlfriend go bonkers, deck her ex-boyfriend, and started going door to door searching for me, loudly announcing she was going to kill me. University police eventually escorted her back to her room, and at that point I was done with this guy. Way too much baggage. Fast forward 14 months. We were friends again, and each of us had a boyfriend-girlfriend during that time frame. I became single and was walking through the quad with my best friend when I casually pointed out this guy. She says, he's cute, and suddenly I realize it's true. Shoot, why didn't I notice that before? We started hanging out more, and I invited him to come watch my indoor soccer game, which he did. His girlfriend was pissed because she and I were on the same team, but he never came to see her play. Then one day, I asked him to help fix my computer. As he sat in my chair, I kissed him on the neck as a thank you. I am a Gemini and have always been flirtatious, but I don't remember specifically meaning anything by the kiss. He perceived it as an opportunity to ditch the girlfriend and try his luck with me again. One night, I was on duty as the dorm resident advisor, so he hung out with me all night, and we chatted and walked through all the dorm halls until 6 a.m. Once I was off duty, he suggested we go watch the sunrise on the top of the quad building. It was a gorgeous sunrise, and he took me to breakfast afterwards. We have been inseparable ever since. That was 16 years ago. Been married for 10, and he still fixes my computer. Story 57. Things have been going on for a few months. Had asked me out previously, but I didn't want anything that's serious at the time. So we just stayed as more than friends, but not a relationship. After another couple of months, we were in bed, and I said something along the lines of, hey, remember when we talked about being in a relationship? You should ask me again. And he just kind of laughed a bit, then carried on with other conversation until I just asked him out myself. Typing out like this is making me wonder if he actually wanted to be in a relationship. We've been together for over a year now, so hopefully he wasn't just too scared to say no. TLDR told him to ask me to be his girlfriend. He still didn't get it. Story 58. We were hanging out as friends at his place, and he planned to cook us dinner, but time just flew by, and I had to head home in order to catch my bus, so he didn't get to prepare the said dinner. I literally said, hey, never mind, I could just spend the night here so you can prepare the delicious steak. He said, no, I can get it ready in like 10 minutes. So he did, and I went home that night. He admitted 2 weeks later that he is super in love with me and that we can't be friends anymore because he can't stand being just my friend, and he will leave me alone if I don't feel the same. I was amazed that he was so clueless. Story 59. The other day, I got a series of texts from a guy I've been half dating asking if I kept putting my legs on his lap when we were hanging out because I wanted to create a barrier between us. No, bro, I was making a move. Story 60. Had a friend who was hanging out at my house. We both had some wine and were pretty happy and touchy-feely. I hugged him and slid my hand up his shirt. He's really in shape, and I said something about his abs. Instead of taking a hint, he went on to detail his workout program and strict diet. No, friend, I just wanted you to take your clothes off.